Hello, we want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice, coming out of Sunnyside, Texas. And today we're continuing our series on mental health. We've been doing a series all month, this month, on various aspects of mental health. We've had various people on our show with us that could enlighten us about the things that are affecting our community. And today we have a real exciting show. We're real excited today because on our guest on our show today is to my left here is Mr. George Parnham of Parnham and Macmillan. He is an attorney. And some of you may remember him and may know him from the Andrea Yates case. But we wanted him on the show today for a special reason, to talk about mental health and the law. We also have with us, to my far left, Robin from Robin's Haven of Hope. She is our continued guest with us. And we have to my right here, Pastor James Nash from the Sunnyside area, who is our CEO of this community voice talk show. And we're going to just jump right into it with Mr. Parnham. First, we're going to have him introduce himself to you, and then we have fielded some questions that we would like to ask him concerning mental health. And we will get started now we will have you, Mr. Parnham, and thank you for being with us to introduce yourself to us.
You're welcome. My name is George Parnham. I'm an attorney in Houston. I've been practicing law in the Houston area for close to 42 years, and I was privileged to represent Andrea Yates along with my defense team, Wendell Odom and Dee McWilliams, in 2 trials back in '02 and then again in '06. And it's a privilege for me to be here with you all.
Thank you, sir.
I thank you so much for being with us. With all the spotlight right now, Mr. Parnham, being on mental health, and it's a hot topic now. We're just hearing it from all different directions. What made you back in '02 when you represented Ms. Yates? What made you? What attracted you to that case with Ms. Yates?
Well, you know, it's interesting. When I first heard about the case, I kind of wondered which lawyer would be called upon in the community to represent her. I had listened to radio talk shows and how individuals in the community wanted to volunteer to take her life to save the taxpayers the money of prosecution. And the talk show hosts were very engaged and enraged about what had occurred, and I kept changing channels, not wanting to listen to this. And then I got a call. I went down to see her, and to make a long story short, in talking with, actually not talking with her, I was talking to her. She didn't really understand what I was saying. This is, of course, after her mother had hired me. And I stood up in the booth to leave. I wanted her to sign a consent form to get her medical records. She looked at it. She didn't know what it meant, and this was less than 24 hours after she had drowned her children. And I stood up to leave, and when I got up, she mumbled something, and I put my ear to the little aluminum hole there in the plexiglass, and I didn't hear what she said, and I asked her to repeat it, and she said, "Please don't leave me alone." And so I sat back down for another 30 minutes and talked. And when I left, I realized, as she left, that truly she was without anyone. She was isolated physically in jail, but she was so alone in her mind because nobody knew what she knew.
Exactly.
and nobody experienced what she experienced, and she was truly alone, and that was basically the fishing hook that caught the fish, I guess.
You know, I listened to you talk, and I listened at how compassionate you were, and I thank God she did have someone who stopped,
Yes.
and just that moment and listened, you know, and didn't leave her alone, because you already know all the stories that were out there, and like you say, you could go on and on and on about why would she do this, why would she do that, but no one knew what she
Right.
was actually what she was actually going through. So she needed someone to lend an ear and just hear her.
That's right.
And thank God for you. And when I look over your bio, I understand why, that there's that compassionate side of you that's there that you don't always see in lawyers. We probably need a lot more. Like you. Once she was convicted and sentenced, and you know, to prison. On what grounds did you appeal her conviction?
Well, we brought on a young lady at no cost to help with the appeal. Her name is Dulcie Sheffman, and she prepared, along with our input, 19 points of error, the most prominent of which dealt with the state psychiatrist who had, when I was questioning the psychiatrist, cross-examining him, I asked him about whether or not he had, in fact, been a consultant to the TV show Law and Order, and he admitted that he was a consultant, and he had already admitted that he wasn't an expert in women's mental health. So I took the giant leap to ask him if any of the shows that he had consulted on dealt with women's mental health issues, and his statement was, as a matter of fact, there was a show that aired in the Houston area of a mother that drowned her children in a bathtub, and was aired shortly before this happened. The character pled not guilty by reason of insanity and was acquitted. And the jury had already known that Andrea and Rusty had watched Law and Order. After the verdict was returned of guilt, thank goodness the jury spared her life, we found out that the forensic psychiatrist had basically made up this.
Wow.
There was no such show. And the case was reversed at the First Court of Appeals, and then she was tried again and was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
What a blessing, what a
Amen.
blessing, what a blessing. There's my question to you, or the questions that we've talked about was, I noticed that they keep this in the forefront. I think they just had a Memorial Day, I think, for the kids. And I noticed that in your bio also that you're very involved with mental health. Do you think that there should be like a court system that represent people like this? Because shouldn't we look at these people just a little bit differently?
The answer,
others?
sure. To respond to your questions, we absolutely have to destigmatize the issue of mental illness in order to properly take care of individuals in our community that suffer from a very real illness.
Exactly.
There is not much difference between a broken leg and a broken mind.
Exactly.
That's right.
Still needs to be fixed.
That's exactly right.
It still needs to be fixed.
There are mental health courts now that are in the process of being established in our community, and the district attorney's office has gone so far as to have a mental health task force comprised of district attorneys that handle mental health cases, and that is a major step in the right direction. The memorial that you're discussing this June the 20th will be the 10th year since the deaths of the children. I told my client, and I'll repeat this with her permission, we were getting ready for a bond hearing after the case had been reversed, and the courtroom was filled with media individuals, and I went back to the holdover, and she was on her knees, and she was wringing her hands and weeping, and basically asking me why or how this could have happened to her kids. And I told her that the quality or the imprint that a person's life leaves on this earth doesn't depend on the quantity of years, but the quality. And her children didn't live very long, but we were determined to develop a legacy for them. And I told her that, and she stopped crying, and I said, come on, let's go and get this done. And so we went in and got a bond, and then I put her into hospital. But she's much better now, where she is in Kerrville State Hospital. And conversing with her now is just like conversing with you all.
Wow. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Pastor, do you have any questions for Mr. Parham?
Mr. Parham, let me first thank you for coming to the show.
Very well.
I've been to court many times. I've seen you in court, and one of the things I noticed that you get a lot of respect at the court from fellow lawyers. And I know this particular case, the Andre Yates case, was very difficult. It would be for any attorney, because you got the evidence that's showing that this part is guilty. You got some victims, and taking a case like that, did it really grate on your mind? Did you really do a lot of self-searching, and why am I doing this? According to the law, everything is showing that she get. How do I go by defending this person? Because even in doing that, I know that has to be some compassion that you saw and have for her, in spite of what she did. Because apparently you dealing with mental health, you recognize the fact that was another problem that she was dealing with, and a lot of people don't understand that, because when it comes to the law, even the law sometimes are very harsh with people like that are not really at themselves and dealing with another personality. And so I think sometimes God has special people for special situations. I view you as one of those people, because I followed this case when you first took it all the way to the appeal. Watching court, I saw the disappointment on your face when they declared her guilty. I deal with stuff like that for a reason, because I have a lot of compassion for people like that. And I want you to tell us, from the standpoint, how did you feel taking this case? Did you feel that maybe I shouldn't have taken it? Was there any doubt whatsoever in your mind?
Well, I will tell you, the first conversation I had before the phone call from their civil lawyer was with my wife, and we talked about what would happen if we happened to get this phone call. And we kind of sensed that it would be a life-changing experience for us were we to accept this case. And that night a phone call came in, and it was almost as if I didn't return the call initially immediately, because I knew, I had a sense that the phone call was about this case. I met with the parents the next day, and then I met with Andrea that day, and there was something that exists that makes this unlike perhaps any other type of defense. You have a mother who does the absolute unthinkable, and that is to take the life of a child, much less 5, that she brought into this world. And that is incomprehensible. It is in and of itself a violation of everything that we hold dear, our own mother, Madonna child. And there had to be something that had occurred in her mind that caused her to do the unspeakable. And it was a curiosity, if you will, to try to kind of find out the reasons why. And we had her tested, and so many fine doctors from the medical center devoted so many hours to research Andrea and her background, and she's on medication, and just to come up with an answer. And during this period of time, you develop a sense of closeness, if you will, because you're what she has, you know, and if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So I think we've put 10 years in each other's lives, and I see her and talk to her frequently, and
Oh, that is so good. That is so good.